a playlist original.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host, KSN Jackson. A news episode recording on April 22nd, Tuesday. A Tuesday morning for me, not so much a Tuesday morning for Jackson. It's already like
an early
in the
afternoon.
noonish, early afternoon
Yeah.
for you. But yeah, not a lot to discuss today, but like still,
I guess not as much as
decent,
recent news episodes. It's been packed lately, but definitely a few interesting tidbits and some trailers today.
Yeah, and also since we both, if we told you guys if we see a new movie at the same time over the weekend, that we will do our best to talk about it. And we both saw Sinners. I saw it last week ago today, and then Jackson, I saw it over the weekend. So
Saturday night,
we're gonna talk.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about that movie and gonna give a little review of it a bit. I read his letterbox review, so I didn't know what he thought of it. I really loved it. So I don't know if his score was only like a half star off of mine. Like I gave it like a perfect score, but we could talk about like maybe what little thing maybe prevented you from giving it like a perfect score, or that could also change if you see it again. And
I'm thinking this is going to be a really enduring movie that I even appreciate more on the rewatch. But like I had nothing bad to say, but I thought it was an awesome cinematic experience. I kind of went on a whim, brought my girlfriend to it, and I was absolutely thrilled. So I would totally recommend anybody listening that hasn't taken the chance to see it yet. I guess it's only been out for the weekend, which will cover the box office too. But go see it. It was incredible, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing it again too. I saw it with my brother at a press screening, and he pays attention pretty well during the press stuff. But I actually was looking over at him during like certain scenes, and there's like one big scene in particular that was just like really mind blowing that a lot of people are talking about a lot.
Yeah,
and it was so cool to just watch his face be like glued to the screen like the entire time. Like he was just so immersed and enamored by it, and actually everyone at that press screening was really into it. You could see people like kind of like bobbing their heads and like tapping their feet to like the music and stuff like that. They were just so into like every aspect of it. I've actually heard pretty much near universal praise for the movie. I haven't met anyone that really has not enjoyed it.
I don't think I've seen a negative thing yet.
Yeah, there are some people that have called it like a beautiful mess because there's like a lot of ideas that maybe they felt weren't like fully realized, but they said that like the approach was just so original and brilliant that even in its messiness, they still found something to really want to recommend. And if anything, they respected his reach and they respected his ability to try something really cool and interesting, not like story wise and just filmmaking wise. I mean, it really is a fantastic movie, probably the best thing I've seen so far this year. So
I would agree actually too.
And we probably will touch on this a little bit. I will ask you, and I'll ask you to tell me when we talk about it. But a lot of people, I know it's early in the year, but like, does this have potential to like be an award season movie like later in the year? It is a horror film, I guess, but the Academy does like prestige like horror movies, the ones that make you kind of think. And this one feels like it's the one that will make you think. It sounds like a straightforward horror film. So there is, an opportunity for it to be recognized in that regard as well. But I'll get your opinion on that when we talk about it towards the end of the episode.
100%.
But yeah, in the meantime, there's news, and this I wanted to see. I like the original movie a lot, so I was okay with them making a sequel if it's it has the original writing and directing team, and it does. Radio Silence is doing a sequel to Ready or Not. They took a play from the Now You See Me playbook with their sequel because that movie is called Now You See Me, Now You Don't, and Ready or Not 2 is officially called Ready or Not, Here I Come. So there you go. Play on those. If it's there, just take it, go with it. I'm cool with it. But they added a lot of people to the cast already. Samara Weaving is coming back from the first movie, and Catherine Newton was already cast. But now we have Sarah Michelle Gellar, Elijah Wood, Shawn Hatosy, Nestor Carbonell, Kevin Durant, and horror filmmaker David Cronenberg are also in the Ready or Not, Here I Come. And they're already shooting in Toronto.
David Cronenberg has an acting role in the sequel?
Yeah, he's appeared in some stuff, like like small parts, but like But yeah, I guess so.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that. That's pretty cool. I don't know about you. So I did see, I know that you saw it and you're a fan of the movie, and I saw it
Yeah.
at some point too, maybe within the year it came out, which was what, like 2022, I think.
Yeah, somewhere there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found that like the next entry in this like universe, I think would be more fitting to be a prequel than a sequel. I don't know about you. Just based on how that movie ends, I think I would rather
Yeah.
explore some of the origins of what we see in this movie. I feel like there's just more fertile ground. So I am surprised that we're getting a sequel. I guess I'm interested to see where it goes. But in any case, depending on maybe the success of the sequel, I think a prequel would be really rich to explore. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I like the idea of like kind of looking back at like how like more details about how this kind of game, I guess, became a thing,
And like
and
the curse or myth
and a
behind it.
curse,
Yeah.
and a weird rite of passage for But I'm also wondering how in the sequel, I mean, of course we don't know, but like how we're going to explain Samara Weaving being maybe thrown into another situation like this, or and maybe they'll
Right.
just flip it and it'll be a totally different scenario this time. Maybe it won't have to do with like a young married couple and all that. They'll find another way to kind of throw the game into the mix. It wasn't something that I thought would scream sequel at all. I really did enjoy it when I saw it, because I had no expectations for when it came out in theaters. It was one of those random kind of August September movies when it came out, and I was impressed by the fact that it had like a really good Rotten Tomato score and the reviews were great, and it ended up being like a fun horror comedies are really hard.
Horror comedy, yeah,
right. Yeah, and they're hard to get right too, because sometimes the horror isn't quite there, and then sometimes the comedy isn't quite there, and it just doesn't work. But I thought that this movie did it pretty well. It balanced both really well, and I think for a lot of people, Samara Weaving became like she is a scream queen
for sure.
For a certain generation now. So like
one of the first things I remember seeing her in. And was this their debut as directors?
So they did like the shorts. I forgot what those like VHS. They had like a little thing on that.
Oh yes,
one of those segments.
Man,
and then they did this, and this was successful, and this honestly led to them getting Scream because because Ready or Not actually, I think it made like $57 million worldwide on a $6 million budget, so it was pretty profitable for the studio.
That's pretty impressive.
And it was well received critically too. As you know, just as a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, I'm glad to see Sarah Michelle Gellar booked and busy. She's doing a lot lately. I mean, she's on the Dexter prequel series. She's coming back for that for its second season that got renewed. She's a part of another show in development that they said is very much like very White Lotus-esque that they're developing for another streamer. And then, of course, she is spearheading the whole Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I guess I don't know if they're calling it a reboot or a sequel series, but she is a part of it. And and Chloe Zhao, who is also a part of it too. She was the one that pitched her the idea on how can we bring the show, into a new generation, also without the baggage of Joss Whedon and all that.
Right. Yes.
So almost like taking ownership of something and kind of making it your own. And so she's a part of that. So it's really cool to see her, thriving and busy right now. And then also you get we get a little faculty reunion with Elijah Wood and Shawn Hatosy. They were in the faculty together, so that's fun.
Nice.
And, it's just like it seems like a fun cast. Everyone seemed really excited that these people in particular were joining it. The David Cronenberg one did surprise me, but he has popped up in like little small roles in movies. So
I'm sure I just love him as a director, and he's such a great, just a awesome member of like the the cinephile community and a fellow Canadian too. So it's just hilarious to see him like pop up in something like that. That's great. He's also pretty up there. He'd be in his 70s, if not older. Yeah. He's not a spring chicken anymore. That's cool that he's still involved in an acting capacity. That's great. I was just gonna say too earlier there that the VHS series, man, that has launched so many directors' careers, or like so many current horror directors have had their start or like a contribution to some of those VHS like movie segments, and that's just great. I didn't realize that the Radio Silence guys were also part of there, but like, it's just interesting to see. The first few in particular are really good.
Yeah, I remember I forget which one they. I want to say they did the one where it was one with the girl with like I don't know if she's like a demon chick, but she has like the split.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
that
remember
one was
that
the
one
one
well.
that still sticks with me. Like
Yeah, that one was
when I
creepy.
first saw it, I was like, that was creepy as hell. But yeah, a lot of people came from that, and it's
Okay.
cool to see that they're kind of going back to this original movie that they did before they got before they got the screen filmed and they got to do Abigail with Universal, and like they get to go back and work on something that was a smaller film for them, but maybe they can
Mm.
expand with a sequel. I do agree with you though. A prequel would be interesting, and maybe if this is successful, they can work out what a prequel would be. Because I would be interested in seeing like the beginnings of all this. I think that'd be a more interesting way to go and a way that makes more sense. But of course, we don't know what they're writing and what they've written, so maybe they do
Right.
have a good idea to move it forward. But I I agree. Keep a prequel in their back pocket because I think that could be a good idea.
Yeah, 100%. Next up was some interesting news, and I had heard this, but haven't heard an explanation as to why. I was just kind of curious. I'm going to pick your brain if there was a further statement, but Mikey Madison, who hot off her win and her success from last year's Nora, and also has worked with the radio silence team on Scream 5, as recently was offered a role in the new Star Wars Ryan Gosling project, and she has passed on a role. That's all I knew, and I was curious. And I have maybe I guess a theory, like career wise, maybe why she didn't. I was just curious if there was anything more concrete that you
So
were aware of.
unfortunately, I don't think there's anything more concrete other than like
Okay.
she talked to Shawn Levy is the one who's directing it. Ryan Gosling. I guess we can kind of talk about these in the same thing. Like they had
Yeah.
this like Star Wars celebration day in Japan, and Ryan Gosling officially came out with Shawn Levy as they're going to lead a new Star Wars standalone film called Star Wars Starfighter. That's going to be the name of it.
Okay.
I think it's set a few years after the Skywalker trilogy, and it's going to be its own standalone movie. Not related
Nice.
to which is good. I think
They need to
Star Wars
like
is a
get off
iffy
that. Yeah.
brand.
I've been
Yeah, they
saying the
need
same thing for
and like
years.
yeah, that's why I like Rogue One the most of the newer ones because it's just like
Agreed.
mostly new, even though they had Darth Vader and all that in there and it was a prequel to all the
Right.
stuff in the New Hope, it was still mostly new people and like it worked. And I think probably for a lot of people is considered the better one of the newer movies that came out
For
in
sure.
the post Disney buyout of the IP.
Right.
So there's that, and like it's cool that we talked about it when Ryan Gosling was in talks for this. We were like, it's an interesting choice for him, but I think he's in this point of his career where he wants to have fun, and maybe that's why he's doing it. Yeah, he said the script is amazing and it has a sense of adventure and like all this fun Star Wars stuff in it, right? This Mikey Madison thing is interesting though. I think it's more interesting because it makes people speculate why she turned it down. I think I asked you like when she obviously won her Oscar, what would her career trajectory be post that? Is she a
Right.
girl that wants to make tentpole like Hollywood popcorn movies, or does she wants to stay like an indie darling? Now I'm glad you mentioned the whole radio silence thing with Scream because she did that before, she
Right.
did Nora and before all that success, right? So clearly she's not against doing studio movies, that aren't prestige projects, but
Right.
maybe some of that has changed since she won her Oscar. A lot of people have made jokes about the fact that she saw how Star Wars has been on the big screen the last few years. It was like, no, I'll pass. I don't want to do that.
Well, I think that'd be
That
completely
could be
legitimate.
it.
And if she doesn't want that for her career, because we've seen a lot of not just actors, but writers and directors who find some success in the academy or bring home a golden statue and then get sucked up by Disney and one of their projects and doesn't
Yeah,
always necessarily like translate. If you are like Chloe Zhao, for example, you direct Best Picture winning Nomadland, which is a relatively small indie project, and then she gets slated to do The Eternals, which is this
almost.
massive mega blockbuster with a $200+ million budget. Like I don't think
Yeah,
necessarily that those things are compatible. And then who like that went the way that it did. And I think
yeah,
maybe Mikey Madison has seen examples of this and doesn't think that maybe the Oscar means that I need to be the next big blockbuster darling. And so
yeah,
I'm kind of my theory, like what I was thinking about her career when I mentioned this earlier, is I'm thinking that maybe she is just wanting to stay as an indie darling and do smaller role, like not smaller roles, but smaller projects and lead those,
right.
like her work with the North with Sean Baker. I think
Yeah,
that would
I think
be smart at this age, not to get put the carriage before the horse necessarily.
Yeah,
She's still a
because
young
like
actress.
it feels like it's more her sensibilities to like lean towards
Yeah,
projects like that.
well, exactly.
And
I 100% agree.
I also respect her desire not to rush and
Yes.
just take whatever is offered to her. I know that she also turned down a Colleen Hoover adaptation too that was uh pushed her away, and like people were online being really funny. They're like block your number, girl, like ignore her. There's a lot of baggage associated with like her books
Yeah.
and adaptations of I will
Yeah.
say this, it was nice to see that, I mean, for the most part, that everyone thought she was more badass for turning this down. Like when they heard that she passed on it, they were like, I
Mm,
like her more because she was like, I don't want to do and I'm sure she listened and was like, then they pitched her on it, and Ryan Gosling is probably right. So that could have been a selling point to maybe
true.
make her
Yeah.
want to do it. And Shawn Levy is not like a hack. I mean, like he's not Nolan, but he's not like a horrible director by any means.
Right.
So I'm sure she listened, but I think that I also hope this isn't the case, but I think there could be pressure too on what to do next for her. Like, what does she
I'm
really
sure to
want
an extent.
the next stage of her career to be? But I guess she doesn't really have to rush. I mean, she got her Oscar. She's 25, 26 years old,
Mm,
and has a lot of time to figure out what her next steps are going to be. I'm personally glad that it's not Star Wars. And
agreed.
I'm not saying that I hate them. I mean, like, in May we have like Revenge of the Sith has a big anniversary. The Empire Strikes Back has a big one also. There are examples of good Star Wars projects. There's a lot going on TV. I know people like Andor a lot as well.
Yep.
But they're
Mandalorian's getting a film
Mandalorian,
adaptation. Yeah.
yeah, but the movies, especially the Skywalker trilogy, which we talked about a lot, if you're Disney and you're gonna buy this IP and spend all this money on it, like I would think you would have like it mapped out for what each movie was gonna be and what this story was gonna be. And like I'm still flabbergasted that they didn't have that mapped out. Like they were
Mm,
basically going from film to film, which is why Ryan Johnson pivoted so hard from what J.J. Abrams was going to do. And I'm not even saying like necessarily what he did was awful. I don't like The Last Jedi, but it has nothing to do with his creative choices. I just don't think
right.
it had pacing. He had pacing
It
issues
has
and like a lot of
a
other
lack of
stuff going on with it.
cohesion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
actually respected his swings though, as far as like, hey, I'm going to do this thing that maybe fans won't love, but like at least I'm taking a chance. So I respected that.
Mm,
But you could tell that they tried to course correct with the Rise of Skywalker by bringing back J.J. Abrams and basically eliminating everything that Ryan Johnson had done in the previous film. Like almost like this didn't matter. And I don't know, the audience is smart and they invested time and their money into watching these movies that you can't really tell them that like what they just saw like is like, oh no, it's almost like a waste of time to
right.
do that. And that is the fault of that whole team of like not having, you can actually have different directors on projects and still have things mapped out completely well. I mean, the way
100%.
they're talking about the whole 28 years later thing, going from Danny Boyle with this one and then Nia DaCosta who's doing the second one. There is
Right.
a lot of conversations from between Boyle and her about how to make at least those first two movies so far. I know they haven't announced who's doing the third, but
Mm,
how to make those cohesive narratively and not feel like two different things. Like they need to like make sense from a narrative standpoint, even though there's a different director on board on each of those projects. So you can have conversations like when you want to plan a universe. I mean, I know we give a lot of crap to the MCU, but for the most part, in the early days of the MCU, expanding their universe, there were
right.
also a lot of conversations from each of those directors on those standalone movies from project to project, how they were
Right.
going to like, move from one movie to the next. So it can be done. I don't know why they didn't do it with Star Wars, but it can very well be done.
Exactly. Yeah, I will never understand why that wasn't done that way either, but 100%. And I think the 28 days later, or years later example is great. So I'm interested. At first, I thought it was worrisome that they had different directors attached, but the fact that
Yeah,
there is some cohesion and it's still Danny Boyle's sort of like project. He kicked it off back in
yeah,
2002 with the first, and so I kind of trust the vision that's there. But yeah, we've seen that go awry, and anyway, with Shawn Levy doing this new Star Wars one, there's still not enough information out there yet, and Star Wars is in a bad place. Like me as I would call myself like a moderate fan. Like I'm more of a fan of the original trilogy than I am any of the other ones. Rogue One fan for sure. That movie's awesome. But I'm kind of like hesitant before I really buy into it. But in any case, I think Ryan Gosling will be a huge selling point for that movie. I think Mikey Madison would have been had she agreed to sign on, but I'm with you. Like I think that she is better suited for other projects, and I commend her for not jumping on the first. And that would have been probably some big money and some big star power that she passed up with that role. So kudos to her for not just selling out and going for the first big Disney pitch that came her way. So I'm excited to see what she does eventually, because right now she's got two no's in a row. So I'm excited to see what she does end up saying yes to in her next project.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you pointed out that like she probably did. I mean, I'm sure they even get to a point where they actually talked about a deal. They probably just talked about the idea and they pitched it to her, but she probably could have potentially worked out a pretty nice deal for herself money wise. And I think she kind of proved that that isn't what's important to her. I guess like as far as what her career should be. And we talk about this with like the Zendayas and the Tom Hollands and Austin Butlers and Florence Pughs. They are also smart in how they pick their projects. And maybe she's just like that. Maybe she's just like, hey, I want to work with I want to work with certain directors. I want to do certain projects. I even though I think she does lean towards smaller movies, I think that if you gave her like this is an example, just like if you gave her a Dune, that she might do it. Like if it's something more like prestige, big popcorn movie, that she might be interested in it. But I think Star Wars has lost its prestige a lot over the years.
100%.
It's not what it was. And I'm not saying that it can't go back to what it was at one point. Like if anything, I'm confident. I love that they're doing the whole standalone thing with some of these projects and not just like milking the Skywalker thing over and over and over again. I'm glad that they're letting I'm also glad that we got a release date from this one. It's in May 2027. I know with a lot of these Star Wars projects they get announced and then they seem like they die. So
we've had a lot announced and canceled in the last like 5 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, they said Taika Waititi's Star Wars project is still in the works. I know there's a few other ones that are still in the works as well. But this one actually being at the Star Wars Celebration Day with Ryan Gosling there in person with, actual branding for the title and, a release date. At least this one seems like it's, going to happen. But so I want to be confident in the fact that the standalone stories will work and that it can get its prestige back. But as of now, it doesn't really have it for me like it used to. And
a lot of people for sure. It's lost a lot of goodwill.
And I'm personally happy that she did turn it down. I mean, I think it takes a lot when you're that young to turn down something like that. Because I'm pretty sure I don't know what her like career is like as far as the people working for her, like what her manager is like or agent, whatever. But they usually are the people that are talking in your ear when those deals are coming around. They're like, take it, like you should take it. Here's why you should take it.
Right.
And unless she has people on her team that respect her, her opinion and her desire as a creative to like do certain things, and they are completely on board with her turning it down. For the most part, most people in those positions working for an actor would be in their ear about why they should do it. And hey, this is a big opportunity. Don't turn it down. So hopefully she didn't have that. Hopefully she has people that understand what she wants to do. But it couldn't have been, for other actors, it wouldn't have been easy. I mean, I did see some stuff from people who were like, she's in a position that most people would dream of while she turned it down. But it's her. Yeah. It's her.
She's an artist. It's her career.
Yeah. And
just because,
let's respect the fact that just because it's Star Wars, that she's not like, jumping out the opportunity to do it. I have a feeling if they come calling or even the MCU comes calling, that she might turn that down to you. Someone put up a poll that said like what popcorn franchise could she be a part of that she might say yes to, and the voting on X, a lot of it said James Bond, that they could see her doing a 007 movie.
Neat.
And that was the one that they were like of all the ones that they could see her saying like yes to. So actually, once I saw that, I was like, actually, I could see her saying, because there is.
I could see that. I think
there is some prestige in that franchise too. Yeah. So
and it's under
good for
new
her
management now. So yeah.
So good for her, not just taking on like the next big thing that she's offered, and knowing that she can take her time and not rush into anything. So
true that. I don't know anything about this next piece, so this is all you. Tee it up. I didn't know. anything about Robert Zemeckis' new project.
Yeah, so I think this is a tale of two artists that are trying to, I guess, change their careers a bit. Because Jennifer Lopez, she actually, this could be. I mean, she's had years before where it's like when she did Hustlers, like she probably should have been nominated for that. She wasn't because they didn't want to nominate the stripper movie, even though the stripper movie was actually pretty good. And but she, she recently they screened Kiss of the Spider Woman at Sundance. That got really good reviews. Like they said she could be Oscar nominated for that. It's a big musical adaptation directed by Bill Condon, who did Dreamgirls, knows his way around a musical adaptation. So that finally got like a picked up for a fall release by a studio, and they're going to push that for awards. So it seems like she's doing less of what she used to do, even though she is filming a rom-com right now. She hasn't completely let go of like her bread and butter.
Right.
But she is doing apparently a project with Robert Zemeckis, who is also in a weird stage of his career where he's made some hits, but he hasn't had some in a while. But she is teaming up with Robert Zemeckis on an adaptation of The Last Mrs. Parrish, which they're going to do for Netflix. And it's based on the Liv Constantine novel, and the story follows a con artist who will be played by Lopez, who targets a wealthy couple, the Parishes, as her next victim. She infiltrates the pair by befriending the wife and seducing the husband with the master plan of becoming the next Mrs. Parrish, only to discover that the wife's life is far more complicated than she could have ever imagined. The book has sold 1 million copies and been published in about 3 dozen countries. It's a really popular book, I guess. She met with Robert Zemeckis, who wanted this to be his next project, and she went to work with him. She's wanting to work with I guess better directors. And she has a deal with Netflix. She did Atlas with them and The Mother, which weren't great, but they did. Yes. But they did well for Netflix. Like I said, when you hear Robert Zemeckis, you think Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Castaway, Forrest Gump. But he hasn't had movies like that in a really long time.
Well, more recently, he did Allied. Yeah, I really like that. From 2017, I want to say, Brad Pitt, Marion Cotillard. That movie was actually really solid for him. But I think that was like the last like pretty good movie I think he's done critically.
And if you are a fan of bougie ghost stories where you can drink Pinot Noir or Sauvignon Blanc, What Lies Beneath is not bad either. It is, but it feels like a very bougie. Like every time we watch it, I was like, this feels like moms who don't like scary movies would watch this because it's Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford and like. So he it's been a while since he's been good though. But I will say this: the plot sounds interesting though. Like at least the story of the book does. And I actually think Jennifer Lopez, when she tries, we actually mentioned this about a lot of actors and actresses. When they try, they are very, very good. When they just don't wing it and phone it in, because she can. But when she does try, she can be very, very good. I mean, I know we covered Out of Sight on the show a long time ago, and she was quite good in that. A lot of people point to Selena, which she's also great in. Hustlers is another one. She is good in rom-com. She's good at doing the whole cutesy. Like, she's actually really good at, even though she is so famous in real life, she's able to play down a lot and make you kind of forget that she's Jennifer Lopez, but I think is a talent in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
But her choices aren't always great, like movie wise. I mean, for every good one I just named, there's a ton of bad ones.
Yeah,
so
quite a few. Yeah.
Hopefully, this is like this new stage is like a new turning point for her in her career, and I think it sounds interesting. I don't know if you think the plot sounds interesting or not, but it could be good.
Yeah, I would check it out. I mean,
I like the Netflix of it all is weird, but like, I wish this was theatrical.
I wish people would stop signing multi-picture deals with Netflix, like David Fincher most of all. But I really want Robert Zemeckis to succeed as well, and it's a shame that his last few movies haven't been, that acclaimed, especially his Pinocchio one, when it was competing with.
And he did that movie. He did that movie Here with Tom Hanks, where they de-aged Tom Hanks and Robin Wright.
Came out I forgot that was. I didn't hear a single thing about that.
That flops. It got bad reviews too, so it was another miss for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you'll have like a ton of goodwill because of like Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and all those, and Forrest Gump. I don't know how long that goodwill lasts if you haven't made like a great movie in a long time. But it sounds interesting. Yeah, I'm down for at least like it to sound like an interesting plot. So hopefully they make a winner together. All right, we got trailers. Some of them are very interesting. A lot of horror. This is a year for horror movies. Maybe every year is, and we just keep like
I'm thinking it's a horror decade. Honestly, yeah, it's just been really, really horror heavy, which is great. And a lot of what we're going to be talking about are horror. I'm particularly because obviously you're way more invested in the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise than I am. I've seen the original years ago. I'm really far off it. We covered the sequel on the show, but you're a big fan of it. Big fan of Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Famously hated by you, the sequel.
Although, like, I have no reservations about the first one. Like, I'm pretty due for a rewatch. I might even catch it soon in anticipation for this. But as a fan of the series, what did you think of this reboot sequel trailer? What are they pitching it as? Like, because Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. feature in it.
So Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Sorry, not her. Who am I talking about? Jennifer Love Hewitt. Yes. My bad.
We do see a picture of Sarah Michelle Gellar's character by her gravestone because she her and Ryan Phillippe did not survive the first movie, but Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. did. What I'm intrigued by is that Jennifer Caton Robinson wrote and did this, and she has I really liked her movie Do Revenge. It was a Netflix film. It was really like kind of snarky, kind of a throwback to like late 90s, early 2000s, almost like teen movies, but like almost like spoofing them and making fun of them. She's a really good writer. She co-wrote Thor: Love and Thunder. I didn't realize that until the other day.
Okay.
She has interesting sensibilities as far as writing goes, and she loves the movies. Like she loves the franchise. So at least there's that. And she also said that this movie is not meant to be pretentious by any means. It is a hardcore slasher movie that feels supposed to feel like a throwback to kind of what the movies were like when the original came out in 97 and then the sequel came out in 98. And that's the vibe I got from the trailer, is that it felt like a very throwback 90s slasher movie. I liked how it started with the whole like her having to listen to the that's like whatever the sweet sound while she was in the tub, and then like the play on words was going along with what the fisherman was doing to I'm assuming is Madeline Klein's boyfriend in that scene, who gets pretty
harpooned.
Harpooned.
I thought that was a pretty sweet,
that was pretty cool
slasher weapon. Honestly, I don't think we've seen that before, so that was pretty cool.
Also, a cool little opening to the trailer to show that, like, we're going, because she said that this fisherman is way more brutal than the ones we've seen in the other movies, and that they're just going for a hardcore slasher horror movie.
Nice.
They keep calling it a requel and a sequel. I guess they're trying to have the best of both worlds here.
Yeah.
I think for what the little that it shows, it's not like a long trailer at all, but it looks fun, at least. And also, I will say that it looks beautiful. It looks shot well.
It does look shot well. I love that shot of the Madeline Klein dropping that like blood colored like bath bomb into the tub, and it's like a downward like an above shot of it expanding through the water of the tub. Like that is a super like nice looking shot, and you can tell there's just gonna be other like good camera work and good cinematography in it. So yeah, I thought it looked really great. Cast I think was looking really good too. Do you have a reservation?
No, it was like it's pretty cool that like when you make a movie like this, go for like a young, hip, good-looking cast. They're doing that.
Exactly,
so that's great. My only concern is like I hope they fit in Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. in a way that doesn't feel forced or kind of like
I
harken back
World
to this.
Dominion.
I harken back to like even though I like Scream 2022, like I think when I talked to you about it after you got on the show, it made me like see like some of the flaws in that, and like Neve Campbell's role in that feels a little like kind of tacked on and not like she was really necessary for like the overall story to work.
Right.
I mean, it's good fan service, right? I mean, people didn't want this movie unless they got Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. back in it. And if it's going to be just Freddie Prinze Jr., that wasn't going to be enough either. They wanted Jennifer Love Hewitt, and that deal came like down to the wire, and they made it work. And good for both of them to kind of have their moment with the movie that came out like 27 years ago, like a while ago. And she hasn't made the last one she was in I Still Know You Did Last Summer, which with time has become its own little. People like it for what it is, even
Right.
though you did not. But the first movie has like a lot of goodwill for it though, because it came out right after Scream, so it came out during a time where, all right, was Scream a fluke, or are these movies actually back? And I Know You Did Last Summer was #1 in America for 3 weeks in a row when it came out. It was a pretty big movie at the time when it came out, and also I think the stars aligned with all the people that were in it. Like this was during the second season of Buffy. This was during the time that Jennifer Love Hewitt was on Party of Five. Like a lot of everything about that movie hit at the right time, and it's a fun little murder mystery. It reminds me of like the old school Prom Night movie from the '80s, not the remake, but
Oh gosh.
it. So I mean, I think it would be a good one for you to revisit because it's way better than the sequel for sure.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
The sequel's a hardcore slasher movie and with no plot really. And the first one at least tries to be like a murder mystery with like a little bit of style and isn't just like a gore fest. This looks like it could be a combination of both though. Like they want the best of both worlds. Other than I guess the opening, the harpooning stuff, were you sold on it? Like, are you interested in it, or did it?
I'm interested in it for sure. Like,
okay,
I can be like pretty hesitant towards like classic or like reboots and stuff. Like, I know it's no secret, like on the show, like I've definitely maligned like the lack of creativity in Hollywood these days. But I think there's some IPs, some movies from this period now that I think are ripe for the reboot or the requel treatment, like
yeah,
as we're seeing. And I think I Know What You Did Last Summer, it could be updated for a more contemporary approach, like see what the 2020s treat that IP. I think that'd be pretty cool to see. And I like that they're including some of the legendary cast. So overall, like I'm intrigued about it. And I think maybe the closer we get to the release date, I'll probably try to find time to get the original in because, like I said, I am due for that watch and see how it resonates. And I think I could easily convince my girlfriend to go see that one in theaters with me. So I'm hoping maybe that'll be the case. And it's coming out in what, June?
July 18th.
July,
Which
July 18th.
It's cool because like the original movie takes place around the 4th of July. So
Right.
But they've always released the first one came out in October, and then the sequel came out in November when it came out the year it came out. So they have the fact that they released it during the summer shows that they have faith in it more than like it just
For
being
sure.
like a let's kind of see what happens. I mean, I think they think they have something here, and I think that with the success of Scream and probably even going back to the success of like Halloween, the 2018 Halloween, they saw the potential of like bringing this back and seeing if it worked. And I'm glad that they found the idea. I'm glad they're not like ignoring even the second one. Apparently, the second one's going to be canon too. So like,
that's what I was more curious about.
Yeah. And by canon, I mean I guess like you have to make it. Well, I guess I can ask your opinion with the one movie, one incident. So meaning like the hit and run and then the subsequent stalking the next year in the first movie, would that be enough of a reason to pull these original people back if the events of the second movie didn't happen? Or is that one movie enough to be like, okay, like that was a lot of trauma and that's enough to like bring these characters back into this new story? Or do you need to have the sequel be canon to show like, hey, she went through a lot, or they all went through a lot?
Yeah. I don't think so. And I think that it's an interesting predicament that Jennifer Love Hewitt's character is going to be in with. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the last scene of the sequel, not her getting dragged under the bed by the killer.
The bed.
yeah. So now they're going to be confronted with answering. Or is there another one after that gets answered by that she feeds? No, she said she wasn't featured since that one. So.
No, yeah, they're ignoring. I'll always know what you did last summer. Thank God, because it's not even
good
part of that story. So,
okay,
the first one also had like a cheap shock ending too that was tacked on because the test screenings wanted something scarier. And like in the first movie, she's back at college and like she's everything's all good. And then she's like in the shower, and then it says "I still know" on it, and then he jumps through the glass, and like the movie ends. So like those cheap kind of shocky endings,
I suppose. Yeah,
let's do away
from that. I think.
Yeah.
This time around.
I don't like. I don't like that either, and I think that is a product of its time. I think people like endings like that back then because, you know, you need like a stinger or like a jump kind of thing at the end. But yeah, I do think it's interesting to kind of. I would think that the first movie, like the hit and run, and then like the next year being stalked by this person who, knows what you did last summer, would be enough trauma to bring them back into the story.
I
And
agree.
You could ignore the whole like Bahamas trip in the second one.
Yes.
But I mean, but maybe it's just Jennifer Caden Robinson just showing respect to the franchise and fans, because they are fans of the second one. I mean, they're there, they like it. So like that's probably why. And then there's, I know everyone wants Brandy to come back as well, who played Carla in the second one. The director and writer said that you'll just have to wait and see whether or not she's in it or not. Don't know if that's just a cheap ploy to get people to watch it, or if she might actually be in there. But yeah, I'm looking. It was surprising when it dropped this morning, because I didn't know the trailer was dropping this morning. I was surprised that it came out, and it does look good. And it looks really like the photos that they released in the press release. Like, it looks like, I imagine this is not an expensive movie by any means, and it just looks so sleek, but like, and polished on the way where it doesn't look like too clean, but it just looks like a really well shot movie. And the original actually was like that too. The thing for 97, it was a pretty nice looking flick. So looking forward to it. Wish we could have Sarah Michelle Gellar in it, but we can't raise her from the dead.
No,
she was on set though. That was fun.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. And
yeah, because she's married to, because she's married to Prince Jr. So yeah, I can't bring her back. But she definitely has one of the best horror movie chase scenes in the first one.
Definitely.
And if you take 1997 gas back to that year, it's a pretty not good year, because she in two movies that year. She died in that, and she died in Scream 2. So I was like, well, that is a bummer. That she didn't make it through any of those movies. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And like, it seems like what they're trying to do too, like the Madeline Klein's, like that some people are pointing out that like maybe remind people of like Sarah Michelle Gellar's character from the first one, and there's like the certain guys that look like they remind them of like the Freddie Prinze Jr. character in the first one. So it seems like she's paying homage to like the original movie in a lot of ways, even with like the cast and like how these characters are going to be represented. So, and I know Jennifer Love said she wouldn't come back if they were just going to like throw her into the movie without it being necessary. So hopefully they did something for her that made sense. So yeah, July 18th. We'll
mark your
find out
calendars.
what they did last summer. Yes.
This
is
next one.
The tiniest thing. I'm scared. I watched it at night, which probably didn't help.
No, I think this trailer looks great. I'm really intrigued as to what the name of this movie is going, like what relevance is going to have to the story, because it's called Weapons. It's Zach Cregger's follow-up to Barbarian from 2022, which I think was a smash, like sleeper hit. That movie was awesome, and I've been looking forward to what he's done next. Yeah, I know, exactly. That's another. Yeah, we discussed that on the show before. Hopefully that will eventually manifest. But I think the marketing for Weapons so far has been picture perfect. It's really just drawing you into this mystery. I think the trailer is super eerie of like these. I guess it centers. I guess maybe some context. It just centers on a bunch of kids from this one community go missing overnight at like 2:17. And there's footage of them leaving their houses and running away. I heard a really interesting. I don't know if rumor is the right way to put it, but a theory, I guess, that this might have. That they think that it might be like a Pied Piper story, like drawing these kids out by like calling to them somehow. I'm like, that would be a pretty cool. And we don't really have any movies like that, but it definitely evokes a sense of definitely some sort of like kid targeting force drawing these kids out and them disappearing. I'm like, that is just innately disturbing, I think. And then the footage in the trailer of them running out and being caught on like the doorbell cameras, it just looks super grainy and like evocative of an older time, and I just think it looks really, really cool. And then
it looks so authentic and real. And I think I think when I mentioned I watched it at night, it was very unsettling to watch it at night. And I watched it on my phone, and usually I don't like to do that. Like
that's how I first saw it too.
I usually watch it on like my TV or like even like the laptop, but watching it on my phone and just in my bed in the dark made that a lot creepier to watch, because I don't know. It's so short. I'm glad that it's a really short teaser, and I already heard about the plot when they previewed this footage at CinemaCon, and then people were talking about it, and it. I just love when like horror movie marketing to me is some of the best movie marketing because when they get it right, they get it completely right.
Yes.
And it always makes me wonder too if like the writers, directors, like the creatives are involved in the marketing, or if that is just like a separate marketing team that does that. Because like, it seems like you would need like the director or writer to kind of be involved in like how we should sell the movie. But
Right.
maybe they do just form like a good team that like knows, okay, this is what the movie's about. This is the best way to, show very little and and intrigue people enough to get them to go see it. I actually couldn't remember what the trailers were like for Barbarian. I should have watched it before I did this for this, but I couldn't remember if that trailer what showed you much, or if it was like, because I know the trailer didn't not give away what the movie really was. It really sold the whole like, Airbnb mishap, and it seemed like it was going to be more of like a, Bill Skarsgård, possibly being involved in that story,
like a misdirection. Yeah.
But like it looks good. Josh Brolin's in it. Julia Garner, Alden. Is it? I always get his name wrong. Han Solo, young Han Solo.
Yeah, Alden Ehrenreich, I think.
Something
like that.
Yeah. Benedict Wong. And like you said, it follows a small community after 17 kids mysteriously disappear overnight, and all at the same time at 2:17 in the morning. And honestly, I don't even know if I want. How much more I want to see.
I don't think I want to know anything more, but there's going to probably be a feature-length trailer dropped at some point. And it'll probably give us more.
We talked about this with Sinners, right? And
I know. That bothered me so much, like to have like the big twist spoiled. But I know it's hard to stay away from trailers because they're news. We cover them a lot, and like as a film lover, you want to get this glimpse into this movie that you're interested in seeing. But I know it's actually been pretty popular. Like a lot of other like film commentators and reviewers have stepped away from just watching trailers. And like, I don't really think that I'll take it to that extreme. It would definitely hinder some of what we do on the show, but like, I would be lying if I said that it didn't get in the way of like movie watching experience sometimes. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't give much away, but
I feel bad for, it is their bread and butter for, I wonder what people, when they have to do trailer breakdowns, cause like that's their thing, like their thing on YouTube is like, break down trailers, that if that becomes like I don't want to do this anymore because it's ruining the movie experience for me. I know
exactly.
I had to write almost every website has like a ending explain for a new movie that comes out. So I had to write one for Drop and Sinners, and they have to be edited just in case. And I was just like, I messaged my editor. I was like, one, did you plan on seeing these movies? And two, like if you are planning on it and you have to like read a whole thing where it's breaking down the ending of the movie, like doesn't that ruin it? And she's like, yeah, that has ruined many movies for me, but it's the job and she has to do it. Sometimes if she really is passionate about it, she'll pass it to someone else to edit it, but she was like, yeah, it can ruin the movie experience.
Yeah, no doubt it would.
Because she's like, with Indie Explain articles, we want you to go into detail about like what you think the ending meant and like all this other stuff, so it can ruin like a lot of the things that you were planning on seeing. And I know I hear the same thing that you hear. A lot of people avoid certain trailers now. I know when like the Sinners trailer came out, a lot of people who had watched it advised other people to avoid it because they felt it gave too much away, and they were like they wish they hadn't watched it. But yeah, I would honestly, if they kept like the trailers or spots just like this, I don't even need to see Josh Brolin or Julia Garner or any of the main stars.
Nope. I'm intrigued enough already.
I'm cool with voiceovers. That was, I think that sounded like Josh Brolin doing the voiceover. And
I think he was the second voice. And the first one, I'm still not. It sounded like Liev Schreiber, who's not casted in the movie. So I don't know who it was, but yeah, I think the voiceover narration is, a slick way to add to the marketing as well.
Yeah. And also, good on Warner Brothers turning their year around, because it started off pretty bad, but now they had Minecraft, they had Sinners, which just did well. Nice. This movie was supposed to come out in January of 2026, and they, I guess, were screening it, and they were like, "This is too good. We don't want to hold this too long. We want to release it during the summer." So it's coming out August 8th instead. Nice. Everyone who has seen it that has a connection to Warner Brothers say that it's no joke, it's the real deal, and that it is an effective horror movie, and they are impressed with what Zach Cregger did. So that gets me more excited to see it.
Okay.
the studio was so big on it that they were like, we got to release this earlier than we planned on doing it. I'm glad they got the marketing train going, but like keep it slow. I don't want to see too much more because this was like actually so effective enough that I would see it based only on this. If I didn't see anything else, I would be completely fine with it.
Agree. In fact, I don't want more marketing. I do because I want the movie to do well. But it's great. Just on that note, there, it's nice to see a movie get bumped up rather than delayed. I feel like we see and hear of delays so much more than we hear of movies that look promising get bumped up on the release schedule. So that's awesome news, and really excited for that.
Yeah. Another interesting trailer that I guess I didn't get to see this trailer in front of cinemas because I went to a press screening, so they only show the movie. But the trailer for him was played in front of the opening of cinemas for a lot of people, and a lot of people were talking about how good the trailer was. And then they finally released it online on Friday. It's produced by Jordan Peele. Everyone thought it was a Jordan Peele movie, but it's produced by him.
I did for the split second think this is his trailer, but I know that that's not being released till the end of the year, so I was like, this is too early to get a trailer for that. But
it's by someone named Justin Tipping, who co-wrote the film with Zach Akers and Skip Bronke. And it stars Marlon Wayans and Tyreek Withers, who Tyreek Withers is also, and I Know You Did Last Summer, so he's gonna have a good
awesome
couple months. But the premise is a promising young up-and-coming football player is invited to train at the isolated compound of a dynasty team's aging quarterback. The legendary, almost retired quarterback, played by Marlon Wayans, takes his protege on a blood-chilling journey into the inner sanctum of fame, desire, power, and pursuit of excellence at all costs. The trailer didn't really give a lot away. I didn't think so, at least. But it seemed like an interesting idea, and that whole play on athletics and that desire to succeed, and like what that kind of push and pull could be between someone who is young and up and coming and someone who is older. And it's an interesting idea. It also came out of nowhere because I didn't even know where this was coming, but I thought the trailer was
me either. I think we're gonna get a ssimilar dynamic in Brad Pitt's Formula One movie too. So, but this is an interesting angle with like the sports angle and football. And I don't know why, but I had this feeling that this movie is going to be an allegory for CTE, which is like a huge bone of contention in the NFL. There was some cool moment in the trailer,
where they
collide.
What I mean?
And then like the shot goes like all X-ray imaging color, and you can see like their skeletal makeup and their brain. And I'm like, obviously, like, that's such a huge part and scandal in the NFL is like CTE and what it does undiagnosed over a long period of time, how it affects the brain. Anyway, I just have a hunch that is going to be part of this movie, or maybe like some sort of allegorical subtext to this movie. But in any case, it's like a sports horror. It looks like it's being marketed as Marlon Wayans in like a role that I've never really seen out of him, and he looked really great in the trailer. Super intrigued. I admittedly, like when I saw it and like I was like, okay, I saw not the trailer, but just the poster and the title and produced by Jordan Peele. I was like, okay, like, yeah, he's produced some pretty solid movies. He's produced a couple that I like didn't really think much about. And this, I kind of went in, trying not to just to draw my own conclusion. And I thought the trailer was super effective. And again, didn't give much away. There's some revealing shots, I would say, like quick cuts in the trailer that I think once we see it, it'll probably come across as like spoilery, but right now not having any context. There's definitely some like satanic ritualistic imagery in this movie. Some goat stuff. There's a pentagram on the ground at one point. I had to watch the trailer like several different times, and I just kept picking out different stuff. But anyway, I think it looked really, really cool. And Justin Tipping directing. I don't really know much by him, or I browsed his filmography. I didn't recognize anything, but.
So I guess he's directed episodes of Black Monday, The Chi, Dear White People, and he was in discussions to direct Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. He was in contention for that, but didn't get it. But like he's done mostly TV. But I mean, I guess like I don't know. It sounds like a cool like original like idea. I do think it is going to be like an allegory for that though. I hope it's not too heavy-handed. That'd be my only problem. Is like, oh, this is the message, is what they're trying to say. But but it certainly looks interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know my brother was super excited because he thought it was a Jordan Peele's film, and he like sent me the poster, and I was like, oh, it says produced by Jordan Peele. And he was like, oh, he was pretty upset that it wasn't Jordan Peele's next movie. But also Marlon Wayans is capable of being serious. I mean, he was really good in Requiem for a Dream, like back in the day. He
Yeah,
can
that's
be
right. Forgot
a
that was
serious
him in
actor.
there.
So yeah, so I think it looks interesting, and it comes out September 19th, which actually turns out to be a decent month to release horror movies. So
Yeah,
I also
100%.
haven't. I can't think of the top of my head. Are there any sports horror films that you can really think of off the top of your head that like I
Sports
can't think
horror
of
films.
film like I
Not
can't really
really.
think of any. I saw like this is like a really interesting take on that because I don't really think you get a lot of them. So yeah, down for it.
No, yeah, that might be a first. Yeah,
Yeah,
super intrigued by that. And that's, yeah, September 19th. So a long time to look forward to that.
yeah. Um, are you were down with the first Fantastic Four First Steps trailer? It was a shorter like kind of teaser. This is a longer
Yes,
official trailer. I just want to throw it out there right now. I think I actually am pretty confident about Thunderbolts. I heard a lot of good things about it already. It's really, really good. But I really think that this is going to be more than that. Fantastic Four is probably going to be their movie this year that a lot of people are going to talk about. It looks like more interesting than some of the stuff they've done in quite a bit.
agreed.
So
More of
I
a risk, I guess, and I can appreciate that. And it's very aesthetically pleasing as well.
yeah,
Like the 60s like setting is, I think, a really interesting and good move for Marvel. I don't even like, is this considered an MCU movie?
yeah, it is because they're gonna weave them into Avengers
Okay.
Doomsday and all that. So it is part of the MCU. It will be the 37th film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's crazy.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Um, and I think it visually looks interesting. I think it's so interesting though. I think Vanessa Kirby is where's she from? She's English, and Joseph Quinn,
Oh,
I
okay.
believe, is also English. I just think it's interesting when we have English actors playing comic characters that were kind of bred in America. Like it's an American
Right.
comic book and all that. But I'm also impressed that they tend to do our accents way better than we do theirs. Because when I heard Joseph Quinn
Definitely.
talk in the trailer, I was like, oh, that doesn't even sound like him. But it doesn't sound like weird or fake. I was like, that's so
Yeah.
weird that he can do that so well. And then
I guess
same
the
thing with Vanessa
American accent
Kirby.
is easy to replicate.
Yeah. And then Pedro Pascal is having I mean, he's continuing to have a moment, I guess.
He's on a
I know
huge
people
role.
people that watch The Last of Us that they're still going through an emotional toll through that.
Yeah.
Um, but he's in everything. I mean, there was stuff that like it's coming out in the next few months. I don't know when he found the time to do it, but
He
it's
seems
cool. I mean,
busy.
I think that all four of them they look like a fun, like cohesive like team, and they seem like they have good chemistry with each other just from the trailer alone. I think that's the most important thing with the Fantastic Four is that they need to feel like a family, and I think that's because they are considered Marvel's first family, so
Right.
they need to feel that way. Um, I'm also down for finally getting a version of Galactus that isn't just like a space cloud or
Mm.
like some energy beam. It looks like they actually went full like you know
Comic accurate. Yeah.
life-size replica of Galactus. And then Julia Garner also in this. She's playing the female Silver Surfer. I
Mhm.
know that some people they were taking screenshots from the trailer and being like, "Oh, well, the Silver Surfer and Rise of Silver Surfer looks better visually," but they were also taking screen grabs from their phone and then putting it online. So I'm sure
Yeah.
she'll look fine. She'll look fine.
I
Um,
thought I had
but
no complaints seeing her in the trailer.
yeah, I think it like that. I think the effects look great. I agree with you. I think the retro style of it looks great.
Mhm.
It was a really smart idea to do that and not try to modernize it like they did with the. I mean, I still think the 2005 one is fun, but it's probably best that they went this route and did a more like period
Totally.
piece, I guess, with it.
Yeah.
Now I'm interested to know how they spring them into like you know modern time with the whole Avengers Doomsday thing. That'll be later, like how they're gonna explain that, but I'm sure they'll
Mhm.
multiverse it or shoot them through time. I don't
Some
know.
portal will open and they'll pop
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yeah. There's only so many ways
Um,
you can explain it.
but yeah, I think it looks really good, and
Yeah.
it's interesting because it's competing with Superman. And I wanted to ask you, of the two
Oh
movies,
yes.
which do you think will be the most financially successful? This or James Gunn Superman movie.
Oh
Because they're
boy.
coming out. I think they're coming out within a week or two of each other in July.
My instincts lean towards Superman, yet I would be more likely to go see Fantastic Four than I would the Superman movie, oddly enough. So, but yeah, I just feel like there's more. He's more of a iconic character, I guess, than Fantastic
Yeah,
Four, but I don't know because maybe like Marvel has lost some goodwill over like maybe their post Endgame series, whereas if people recognize that the DCU this will be their first entry in it, maybe that
yeah,
will draw some more people to the theaters that might not otherwise have gone to see it after the DCEU was ended. I don't know. I
yeah.
think there's a few different factors that'll affect the box office of both of those movies. But I think both look good in their respective categories. So, but anyway, if I had to pick one, my money's on
No,
Superman just because of the status and
yeah.
legend of that character.
I think that. Yeah, I think it's hard for me to pick because I agree with that. But then
Hmm.
I'm like, it's been a while since. I mean, actually, if you depending on what fans you ask, there hasn't been a truly great Fantastic Four movie on the big screen. Like I know
Hmm.
there's a lot of revisionist history on the 2005 one with Chris Evans and Jessica Alba where people were like, "Hey, you guys didn't know what we had back then. You guys thought it was bad, but now it's better than the one with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan."
Right.
So there's that. But we haven't had like a really great one, and I think them being brought to the MCU might bring people in. I
True.
give a slight edge to Superman, but I guess it all depends on like the reviews, and I think also DC fans can be a little bit more toxic than MCU fans or Marvel fans.
Okay.
So their reaction to Superman will also determine, I guess, how well it does. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I think it's kind of like a boss move from both entities not to they both knew when their release dates were in 2025. They knew they were this close to
Right.
each other, and one didn't move. They were like, "No, I'm staying put." And the other one's like, "All right, we're staying put too. I
Yeah.
guess we have to share the summer." So, I think there's room for both. Now I wouldn't be surprised if Fantastic Four, if it's really good, actually outgrosses it like a little bit. I mean, and also oddly enough, I think it depends on how Thunderbolts is received too. I think that'll
True.
have a
Yeah.
lot to do with it. Um, but we shall see. It comes out on July 25th, and maybe it might make you interested in seeing an MCU movie in the
Yeah.
future because I know you're like
Perhaps if there's
you're on the
gonna
fence.
be one, it's probably gonna be that one. Especially
Yeah,
where it's like marketed more as a standalone. I know that they'll eventually join like the MCU as characters like later, but
yeah,
I think as far as this movie's concerned, like none of the other MCU movies like will impact the story of this one. So you can kind of just go in without having to be brushed up on your homework, and that appeals to somebody like me. So, and I'm pretty
yeah.
big on the cast too. I think it looks awesome.
All right, so now we have a little longer look at 28 years later. I
Yes,
know how you feel.
man,
I know how you
man,
feel. How you feel about. I know how you feel about longer looks, but this was actually I thought it was a good trailer, and I'm
agreed.
so sold on it. Also, it's. I mean, we mentioned this earlier, but it's horror fans are eating well this year, and I'm just glad that we're getting good movies from the genre. And it's just an exciting time to be a horror movie fan, and this is another good example of that. So I think it looks great.
Yeah,
I'm excited for it. Again, like it's a longer look, but like didn't show like everything, right? Like it's
yeah,
enough to like
and
tease you
the
just
only
right.
complaint I had was the spoiler of that priest character and like we
Oh,
see his demise, which is an awesome looking shot. And it's like the final shot of the
yeah,
trailer is him like screaming with like blood coming out of everywhere. But I'm like, although like we don't really know that character, it's not much of a spoiler yet. It's just I feel like we could have done without seeing maybe how that character is going to go out.
yeah,
Oh well. I think I didn't really ultimately have many complaints with the trailer. I thought it looked great. I thought it set up the setting and then the production value of this movie looks incredible. It looks like the scariest of the three so far that we've had. It looks like one of the
yeah.
scarier zombie infected subgenre movies that I've seen in a long time, and I cannot wait for it. And we get a good look at Aaron Taylor Johnson, which is awesome, and
Yeah.
see some more Ray Fiennes, which is cool. So I'm really excited for his character in particular.
Do you think I think they mentioned that Cillian Murphy is not going to be in this one but he will be popping up in the other two. Or do you think
Right.
that's just a misdirection? They're lying because like I did notice that on a lot of the sites that were doing the cast, he was listed until the last few weeks that he's not listed, but he's listed as an executive producer only and not as starring at all in the first movie. But I know that they got him back to do something, not just produce it, but they got him back to star in some capacity. Right. I know some people thought he was the skinny looking zombie that was
including myself. I totally thought that was him. The first look we got.
Yeah, apparently not him. Even though it does look like him.
It does look a lot like him.
The actual actor who plays that part had to go on social media and be like, "No, that's me."
I saw their tweet as well. I have a sneaky suspicion he'll pop up in a post-credit scene or mid-credit scene or something like that, if not during the main story. Or maybe we'll see. There's a great shot in Furiosa from last year where we get a over-the-shoulder look at who is believed to be Max Rockatansky, and without showing the character's face, it's just him observing like this big chase throughout the desert, and it's just a great subtle nod at that character. So if we get something like that where we see Killian without really knowing it's him, something like that, or maybe a post-credit like really quick cameo appearance, I would love to see him like help lead or support the main cast in this movie. But I could contend with a cameo or post-credit sequence appearance as well. So
and then use him more in the next one or next two.
Maybe he'll show up and bail out some of our heroes from this movie.
Yep. It was shot back to back with 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, which we brought up, that Nia DaCosta is directing. And this movie comes out on June 20th. So fairly soon. All this stuff is coming out very soon.
Nice.
We've come a long way since 28 Days Later, which was like, what was it shot on? Like it felt like a handheld camera. I know I wasn't like that, but like just the style of it, which was what made that movie so unique and actually scary in its own right, that it didn't look like an actual film. I'm gonna rewatch the other two to get ready for this one, but I haven't seen 28 Weeks Later in a really long time compared to
I've seen 28 Days rewatching.
Yeah, I saw 28 Days Later. I think it was like a year and a half ago. The last time I watched it, and I actually haven't watched Weeks in years.
Years,
it's been a long time since I watched it. I remember liking it when I saw it, but it's been a while. So that's the one I'm looking forward to revisiting the most, I think.
Nice. Me too. Because I'm a big fan of the original. I just had seen it fairly recently, and just being honest with my movie watching schedule, I know that I would be just better off just watching 28 Weeks Later instead of trying to get both in before, especially where it's coming out mid-June. So I am more due for a rewatch of Weeks, which I am excited for because I've only seen it the one time. I remember I didn't like it as much as 28 Days Later, but it's got different things you appreciate.
Also, very earliest Jeremy Winter back then, like before he became like super famous. Yeah,
that's right. So, and early Rose Byrne as well.
So should be a fun one to revisit. And the last trailer we have to talk about before we talk a little bit about Sinners is they released another trailer for Another Simple Favor, which looks good. I mean, I've seen A Simple Favor, so maybe that's why I like this trailer. And because I already know like who the characters are and their dynamics and like some of the jokes going back and forth in the trailer and like the kind of back and forth between some of the characters makes more sense because I've seen the first movie. I don't know if it's different for you because you haven't, but
I liked the trailer without really knowing anything about the first one. I thought it was like it markets itself well as like a comedy thriller, more comedic than I realized, I guess. But I was more looking forward to see what you had to say about the trailer, being a fan of the first movie. From when did that come out? 2020, 2021?
I think God, was it 28? Let me look at really quick. It feels like it wasn't that long ago, but I think it might have been. 2018. So it was been a while.
Oh wow, earlier than I thought. Okay.
So 5 years. So it I told you about the first one. It was marketed as like a thriller, almost like a Gone Girl-esque thriller, and then it really turns itself on its head, and it's like a really funny dark comedy by the end of it. The trailer, like the teaser one that came out a month or two ago, and this one seems like there is still thriller elements in it, but it seems like they're leaning into the comedy a bit more in this one, and really just kind of like riffing on like the Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick have really good banter back and forth in the first one, and it seems like they're kind of playing on that a bit in this. And I think it's cool of Paul Feig to actually for what I noticed in the trailer, bring back almost every character from that first movie, even small parts, like some of the like kind of PCA parents that were in the original movie were featured in the sequel trailer. I haven't seen Harry Golding anything in a while. He was supposed to be like a big thing. I don't know what happened, but he's in this too. He's back.
Yeah,
and
come to think
also,
of it, that's a good point.
and then, but we get Allison Janney joining the cast as well, and Elizabeth Perkins is joining the cast too. I don't know. It looks fun. I wish it was a theatrical movie again, though. I mean, like the first one made $90 million on nothing. On like it was wasn't a big budgeted movie, but I guess they think it's more, prime for prime, so that's why it's going there. But it looks good. I know your movie schedule is packed, but the first movie is worth a watch if you ever have a time to check it out. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, and they're really getting it together. And hopefully, we'll talk more about the movie and not about Blake Lively's personal problems. When it comes out.
Exactly. Like to leave that behind, or that is its own talking point for sure.
But it comes out on Prime Video on May 1st, so also very soon.
Okay. Yeah, very soon. A couple weeks as of recording, or not even 9 days.
9 days.
Yes.
All right.